Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The sun had just begun to set, casting a warm, golden hue over the neighborhood as I sat in my favorite armchair. The old floral fabric had worn thin over the years, but it still held the comforting scent of home. I cradled a cup of chamomile tea in my hands, savoring the familiar warmth that radiated through the porcelain. It was a quiet evening, like so many others, filled with the soft ticking of the grandfather clock and the distant hum of cars passing by. My thoughts wandered to Robin and Gemma. It had been months since I'd last seen them, and the distance felt more pronounced with each passing day. My heart ached for their laughter, their company, and the vibrant energy they brought into my life. The silence of my empty house was a stark contrast to the bustling home it once was, filled with the sounds of a growing family. The sudden ring of the phone jolted me from my reverie. I set my cup down carefully and reached for the receiver, my heart quickening with hope. Hello? Mom, it's me, Robin. His voice was warm, yet there was an underlying tension that I couldn't quite place. Robin, dear, it's so good to hear your voice. How are you? I'm good, Mom. Listen, Gemma and I have been talking. There was a pause, and I could almost hear the wheels turning in his mind. We think it's time for a change. You shouldn't be living alone anymore. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, Robin, I've missed you both so much. What did you have in mind? We've been thinking, Gemma's voice chimed in, full of practiced cheerfulness. You could sell the house and move in with us in the city. It would be so much easier for all of us. You wouldn't have to worry about maintaining the house, and we could spend more time together. Tears welled up in my eyes. The thought of reconnecting with my children, of being a part of their daily lives, was a dream I had long since given up on. That sounds wonderful, I said, my voice trembling. I'll start making arrangements right away. Robin and Gemma's visits became more frequent in the weeks that followed. They helped me sort through old photographs, pack up mementos, and arrange for the sale of the house. One afternoon, as we were packing up the attic, I came across an old, dusty box filled with memories, letters, trinkets, and a photograph of us from a happier time. Mom, look at this, Gemma said, holding up the photo. Remember this day? I took the photo from her, my eyes misting over. Yes, I do. It was a beautiful summer day. We had a picnic by the lake, and you and Robin spent hours playing in the water. Robin smiled, a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. We had a lot of good times here, didn't we? Yes, we did. I agreed, feeling a pang of sadness. I'm going to miss this place, but think of all the new memories we'll make together in the city. Gemma said, her voice bright with promise. It's going to be great, Mom, you'll see. The house sold quickly, and before I knew it, moving day had arrived. As I stood in the doorway, taking one last look at the home that had been my haven for so many years, a mixture of sadness and anticipation washed over me. I was about to embark on a new chapter of my life, one that I hoped would bring me closer to my children. Robin and Gemma helped me into the car, and we set off for the city. The journey was filled with polite conversation and the occasional reminiscence. I tried to quell the unease that gnawed at the edges of my excitement, telling myself that this was the right decision. When we arrived, however, my heart sank. Instead of taking me to their home, Robin pulled up in front of a pristine, yet impersonal nursing home. My stomach churned with a mix of confusion and dread. Mom, we thought this would be best for you, Robin said, avoiding my gaze. We can't afford to have another person living with us, but this place is nice and you'll have everything you need. I stared at the building, its sterile facade a far cry from the warm, welcoming home I had imagined. But you said I would be living with you. Gemma placed a hand on my shoulder. We didn't want to worry you, Mom. This is for the best. You'll be well taken care of here. The betrayal cut deep, and for a moment I was speechless. I had uprooted my life, sold my beloved home, all for the promise of being close to my children again. And now here I was being left in a place that felt more like a prison than a home. With a heavy heart, I nodded, trying to hold back the tears. I understand, I said quietly. Thank you for arranging this. They helped me settle in, but their visits became infrequent once again. I tried to make the best of my new situation, finding small joys in the routines of the nursing home. But the loneliness was profound, and I longed for the connection I had hoped to rekindle with my children. One evening, as I sat in the common room, a woman named Marjorie struck up a conversation with me. She had a warm smile and a twinkle in her eye that reminded me of days gone by. "You look like you have a lot on your mind," she said kindly. I sighed, grateful for the company. I moved here hoping to be closer to my children, but things didn't turn out the way I expected. Marjorie nodded sympathetically. "It's hard, isn't it? We give so much to our children, and sometimes they don't realize how much we still need them." We talked for hours, sharing stories of our pasts and finding comfort in each other's company. Marjorie's friendship became a lifeline, and I began to see that maybe this chapter of my life wasn't going to be as bleak as I had feared. But the turning point came on a crisp autumn morning. As I walked in the garden, I noticed a for sale sign across the street, the old charming house looking lonely and in need of care. Something about it called to me, reminding me of the home I had left behind. I remembered the small nest egg I had hidden away over the years, a secret fund for emergencies. With newfound determination, I decided to buy the house and reclaim a sense of independence. It was a bold decision, but one that filled me with a sense of purpose and hope for the future. Little did I know, this decision would lead me to an unexpected and fulfilling new chapter, filled with love, friendship, and a rediscovered sense of family. The old house across the street was a picture of faded glory, with its peeling paint and overgrown garden, but to me it was a symbol of a fresh start. The process of buying it was surprisingly swift, and soon I found myself holding the keys to a new chapter in my life. I could hardly believe my luck when the purchase went through without a hitch, thanks to my hidden savings. It seemed the universe had conspired to give me a second chance. The day I moved in, the house felt eerily silent, echoing the void left by years of neglect. Dust motes danced in the streams of sunlight filtering through grimy windows, and the air was thick with the scent of disuse. I stood in the foyer, clutching a box of my belongings, feeling a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. This was my new home, and I was determined to make it a sanctuary. My new neighbors, Catherine and Ryan, had been watching the house with curious eyes. They were a friendly couple, both in their late 30s, with an infectious enthusiasm for life. When they saw me moving in, they wasted no time in introducing themselves. "Hello there. You must be the new owner," Catherine called out, her bright smile lighting up her face. She had a warm, welcoming presence that immediately put me at ease. "Yes, I'm Alana Simpson," I replied, smiling back. "I just moved in today." Ryan stepped forward, extending a hand. "We're Catherine and Ryan. Welcome to the neighborhood. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask." Their offer of help proved to be a godsend. Over the next few days, Catherine and Ryan became my constant companions, assisting me with the arduous task of cleaning and repairing the house. Their children, Abigail and Taylor, were delightful, their laughter bringing life back to the old walls. One afternoon, as we were clearing out the basement, Ryan stumbled upon a large antique chest tucked away in a dark corner. It was covered in dust and cobwebs, clearly undisturbed for years. "Alana, look at this," Ryan said, his voice tinged with excitement. "Have you seen this before?" I shook my head, intrigued. "No, I haven't. I wonder what's inside." Together, we managed to pry open the chest, and what we found took our breath away. Inside was a stunning collection of jewels and gold, each piece more dazzling than the last. I stared in disbelief, hardly able to comprehend the fortune that lay before us. "Oh my goodness," Catherine whispered, her eyes wide with astonishment. "This is incredible, Alana. You found a treasure." I reached out to touch a delicate necklace, its gemstones sparkling in the dim light. "I can't believe it," I murmured. "How could something like this be hidden here?" Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. "Sometimes old houses hold secrets. It looks like you've discovered a piece of history." As the initial shock wore off, a sense of wonder and responsibility settled over me. This treasure was a gift, but it was also a challenge. I had to decide what to do with it, and I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. I decided to confide in Catherine and Ryan, trusting their wisdom and kindness. "Let's keep this between us for now," I suggested. "I need some time to think about what to do next." Catherine nodded, her expression serious. "Of course, Alana. We'll help you in any way we can." With their support, I began to formulate a plan. The treasure wasn't just a stroke of luck. It was an opportunity to rebuild my life, and make a difference in the lives of those who had shown me kindness. I resolved to use it wisely. In the weeks that followed, we worked tirelessly to transform the house. With Ryan's handyman skills and Catherine's keen eye for design, we repainted walls, repaired broken fixtures, and breathed new life into every room. Abigail and Taylor helped as well, their youthful energy infusing the project with joy and laughter. One evening, as we sat in the newly refurbished living room, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Alana, have you thought about what you'll do with the treasure?" I smiled, feeling a sense of clarity. Yes, I have. I want to use it to help others, to create something lasting. This house has become a home again because of all of you. I want to give back in a way that honors the generosity I've experienced. Ryan nodded approvingly. That's a wonderful idea, Alana. How do you plan to do it? I've been thinking about setting up a fund for scholarships, I replied. There are so many children who could benefit from a good education, just like Abigail and Taylor, and I'd like to donate a portion to charity, to help those in need. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. That's beautiful, Alana. Your kindness will make such a difference. As we toasted to new beginnings, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The house that had once seemed like a lonely refuge had become a place of hope and renewal. With my new friends by my side, I knew that the future held endless possibilities. The house was finally complete, its transformation nothing short of miraculous. The once dilapidated structure now stood proud, its fresh coat of paint gleaming in the sunlight, the garden blooming with vibrant flowers reminiscent of the ones I had tended back at my old home. It was as if life itself had been breathed back into its walls, and in many ways into me as well. Catherine, Ryan, and their children, Abigail and Taylor, had become more than just neighbors. They were family. Their unwavering support and boundless energy had turned what could have been a lonely endeavor into a joyous, collaborative journey. The bond we shared was forged in the countless hours spent together, in the laughter and occasional frustrations, and in the shared vision of creating a home filled with love and warmth. One sunny afternoon, as we were enjoying a picnic in the newly landscaped garden, Taylor came running over, his face flushed with excitement. "Mrs. Alana, can we have a tree house? Dad said it could be our next project," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with anticipation. I chuckled, ruffling his hair. "A treehouse, huh? That sounds like a wonderful idea, Taylor. What do you think, Ryan?" Ryan, who had been lounging on a blanket with Catherine, sat up and grinned. "I think it's a fantastic idea. We have the perfect tree for it, and it would be a great addition to the garden." Catherine nodded enthusiastically. "Let's do it. It'll be fun for the kids and another way to make this place even more special." As we began planning the tree house, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. The house was no longer just a building. It was a hub of activity and creativity, a place where dreams could take root and flourish. The following weeks were a whirlwind of measuring, sawing, and hammering. Ryan took charge of the construction, with Taylor eagerly assisting, his small hands mimicking his father's every move. Abigail and Catherine focused on decorating, envisioning a magical hideaway filled with colorful cushions, fairy lights, and books. One evening, as we were taking a break from our work, Catherine and I sat on the porch, sipping iced tea and watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was a canvas of purples and pinks, a perfect backdrop for our quiet conversation. "You know, Alana," Catherine began, her voice soft, "you've brought so much joy into our lives. This house, this project, it's more than we ever imagined." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "You and your family have done the same for me, Catherine. I don't know how I would have managed without you. You've made me feel like I belong." Catherine reached over and squeezed my hand. "You do belong, Alana, your family to us." It was a sentiment that echoed in my heart, affirming what I had known for some time. In Catherine and Ryan, I had found kindred spirits, and in Abigail and Taylor, I had found the grandchildren I never had. The treehouse was completed just in time for a neighborhood gathering we had planned. We invited friends and neighbors to celebrate the new addition and to see the house that had become a symbol of renewal and community spirit. The air was filled with laughter and the delicious aroma of barbecued food, and the treehouse was an instant hit with the children. As the evening wore on and the crowd began to thin, I found myself alone in the garden, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The night was clear, the stars twinkling like the jewels we had discovered in the chest. I felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that I had not only rebuilt a home, but had also found a new family to share it with. The following months brought a new rhythm to our lives. The house was alive with the sounds of everyday life, children's laughter, the hum of conversations, and the comforting routine of shared meals and activities. Abigail and Taylor had taken to calling me Grandma Alana, a title that filled me with indescribable joy. One particularly memorable day, I received a letter from my lawyer, Mr. Caldwell. It was time to finalize the details of my will. I had been thinking long and hard about how best to use the treasure we had found, and now, with the support and advice of Catherine and Ryan, I felt ready to put my plans into action. We gathered in the living room, the fire crackling softly, casting a warm glow over the room. Catherine and Ryan sat beside me, their presence reassuring. I've decided how I want to allocate the fortune. I began, my voice steady. I want to set up a scholarship fund for underprivileged children in our community. Education is so important, and I want to give others the opportunities they deserve. Catherine nodded, her eyes shining with approval. That's a wonderful idea, Alana. It will make such a difference in so many lives. And I continued, I want to ensure that Abigail and Taylor have the means to pursue their dreams. They've brought so much happiness into my life, and I want to do something special for them. Ryan smiled, pride evident in his eyes. You're incredibly generous, Alana. Your legacy will live on through these children and the lives you touch. With my plans in place, I felt a sense of closure and contentment. The days grew colder, the crisp air signaling the approach of winter. The vibrant colors of the garden began to fade, replaced by the quiet beauty of frost-kissed leaves. Life inside the house, however, remained warm and bustling. Abigail and Taylor's laughter echoed through the rooms, their boundless energy a constant source of joy. Catherine, Ryan, and I continued to nurture our close-knit bond, cherishing the simple pleasures of shared meals and cozy evenings by the fire. One particularly chilly morning, as I was savoring a cup of tea in the living room, the tranquility was shattered by the unexpected sound of the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone, and a sense of unease crept over me. Catherine and Ryan were out running errands, and the children were at school. I slowly made my way to the door, my heart beating a little faster. When I opened it, I was greeted by the sight of Robin and Gemma standing on the doorstep, their expressions a mix of determination and false warmth. Mother, Robin began, his tone overly polite, we've come to see how you're doing. Gemma nodded, her smile strained. Yes, it's been too long. We've missed you. I felt a pang of sadness at their insincerity but invited them in nonetheless. They followed me into the living room, their eyes darting around, taking in the changes and improvements. I could sense their curiosity mingled with something more insidious. We sat down and I offered them tea, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. They accepted, and for a few moments we engaged in small talk, though it was clear they were waiting for the right moment to address the true reason for their visit. Finally, Robin cleared his throat, glancing at Gemma before speaking. Mother, we've heard some interesting news. It seems you found something valuable in this house. My heart sank. So they had discovered the truth about the hidden fortune. I had feared this moment but hoped it wouldn't come to this. Yes, we did find some old jewelry and gold, I replied cautiously, watching their reactions. Gemma leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with greed. We think it's only fair that we, as your children, have a share of it. After all, we're family. I sighed, my resolve hardening. Robin, Gemma, I understand you might feel entitled to the treasure, but it belongs to this house, and it's part of my plans for the future. I've already made arrangements for its use. Robin's polite facade began to crack. Mother, you don't need all that money. We could use it to improve our lives, help us with our debts. I shook my head firmly. I've made my decision. The treasure will be used for scholarships and to ensure Abigail and Taylor have a bright future. It's what I want. Gemma's expression turned icy. You're making a mistake, Mother. We deserve that money. I stood my ground, feeling a surge of strength. No, Gemma. What you deserve is to find your own way without exploiting others. I'm sorry if this isn't what you wanted to hear, but my decision is final. The tension in the room was palpable. Robin and Gemma's frustration was evident, but I remained resolute. They eventually left, their parting words laced with bitterness and threats of legal action. The following weeks were a blur of anxiety and preparations. I consulted with Mr. Caldwell, my lawyer, ensuring that every detail of my will and the legal ownership of the treasure was ironclad. Catherine and Rayan stood by me, offering unwavering support and reassurance. One evening, as we sat around the kitchen table, discussing the situation, Rayan spoke up. "Alana, we'll fight this. Robin and Gemma have no right to take what's yours." Catherine nodded in agreement. "We're here for you, no matter what happens. You're part of our family, and we'll protect you." I smiled, touched by their loyalty. "Thank you, both of you. I don't know what I'd do without you." Despite their threats, Robin and Gemma's attempts to contest my will and claim the treasure were met with failure. The courts upheld my decisions, recognizing the clear intentions I had laid out. The legal battle was draining, but the outcome was a victory not just for me, but for the principles of fairness and justice. In the aftermath, Robin and Gemma retreated, their bitterness and greed leaving them isolated and estranged. It was a painful realization that my own children had chosen a path of selfishness, but I found solace in the family I had gained. The treasure had not just brought wealth, but had unearthed the true riches of love, loyalty, and a family that would endure through any storm.